my spoiled brother, and his pregnant wife. My wife took over my house and threw out my things. My mom sided with him. Now I'm the bad guy for kicking them out. I am a man who is 26 years old and has been living with my parents in the city for the past year. That sounds pretty easy, right? But it's not what you think. This wasn't a going back home because I couldn't pay the rent, so I paid off the whole mortgage on my house and pay for all of the food bills and costs that my parents don't pay a coin. To give you some background, my Karenza, 52, a woman, and Elliot, 55, a man. Men are former teachers, staying in the country for a long time. But when they stopped working, they were eager to visit the city, was sick of living a quiet life, and wanted to get to more interesting things faster, and I thought that was at least what they said. I'm already making a good living as the city has a software engineer, better job choices, and I also thought I'd help them out because they did that as a child. That was too much for me. We moved into this because of family matters. Beautiful city house with 3 bedrooms. Not on a house level, but this is a nice house with 3 bedrooms. A little garden and a big living room to hang out with everyone. Since I made sure that the person who pays the bill was take the master bedroom. It has a walk-in closet and its own toilet, which is great because who would want to share a not interested in sharing the bathroom with anyone else about the second flat where I live office since I work from home more than 80% of the time I set everything up just the way I wanted. I watch a nice chair the whole time. Thought the 3rd bedroom would be used as a guest room for family stays or anything. At first, it seemed easy enough. Everything looked good. My parents we're so happy to be in the city, and all got into a pretty good position. Daily life. They did their gardening, doing what retirees do while I watched TV. I did my job, paid my bills, and cleaned. I was willing to pay for the house. I make 6 figures from everything I do that they don't have any other money. Plus, it's a family. You don't charge rent to a family, right? It was then that things turned a corner. It went by faster than I could say. Would have casually guessed, my mother said something one day at breakfast. She walks away like it's not a big deal. Over you. Know your brother Eric and Lucy would like to move to the city. Things are not going well for them. Back in the Lucy is pregnant and lives in an old town, so could use some help. At first, I didn't give it much thought. Eric, 28. Male. Lucy, 26. Female. And have always been the types of people who moved from one case to the next. They weren't having a hard time, but they weren't having an easy time either. Doing well. Lucy's pregnancy adds another layer of complexity to the problem. I thought, okay, maybe they'll move to get a small flat in the city but my mom had other plans. After a few days, she sat me down and added in a sweet voice, "We've asked Eric and Lucy to stay with them. We promise it will only last a short time. Until they can stand again." This is where I should have seen it coming, but I didn't. I just nodded. I kept thinking, okay, whatever. They'll stay for a while and then go find their own. Things I didn't know were that this was just the start of the chaos. My parents didn't do that make sure you know if I was okay with they were moving in. They just told me. After they had already said hello, I was still taking it all in when Eric Lucy came to our door a week later. With their bags in hand and looking like we were moving in for good. So here's how it works. They move in, and it is clear right away that they plan to. No matter what, I can already feel the getting stressed out because I have to pay for everything. Groceries, gas, and the mortgage, anything. Now I have 2 more people to feed and take care of. No one even asked me if it was okay. They just moved in like it was something that just makes sense. Don't get me wrong, I love my brother. After all, Eric does have a family, the world's most responsible person. He always seems to find himself in tough situations and then needs other people to help him out. And Lucy is nice enough. But she hasn't having an arrogant attitude that makes me feel like, since she is pregnant, she right away everyone pays extra attention to around her, but now things start to. Lucy starts making really weird these small remarks a few days after. They move in. You know, the ones seem safe but are actually very. Whenever she felt bad, she would say things like, "This place is huge, it must be tough for you to clean everything by yourself." As well, "I can't wait until the baby is here and we'll need a lot of." There was room for all the baby stuff. I didn't not give it much thought at first, but then Eric and Lucy surprised me by coming up to me one night after a long day of work. I was tired from work and asked if we could talk, and thought, okay, maybe they're going to say sorry for taking up space and eating all the food without giving any not to help, but nah. Instead, Lucy, "That's what we thought it would do," it says. "It makes more sense for us to take the master bedroom." I just looked at her. What I heard shocked me. "We need more room," Eric said, as if it were. "The baby will need a lot of things, and your room has a walk-in, a wardrobe, and a bathroom all to yourself. Keep in mind that I pay the whole bill. I own the house, and pay for it. All food. And I've been going to the whole house without expecting anything in return." Now they were asking me to give up my own bedroom. I was shocked. I couldn't even answer right away. I felt like being brave had hit me all at once. Finally, I said, "Why don't you? It's enough for you to just take the extra room. It's big and ready for guests." Lucy wouldn't have it. But that room doesn't have a walk-in bedroom, and the eyes stared at the baby because it was going to need space. They tried for a few seconds to, "Don't lose your cool." "I'm not giving up my room," I said. You, as calmly as, "I could. You can use the extra room or get a different place to stay." Eric was shocked that I wasn't giving up, but Lucy was clearly upset. That's when I got it. Things were not going to go well. Okay, so after that awful conversation, Eric and Lucy had asked me straight to give up my room. I hoped they'd see how stupid they were. They made noise and backed off. Who in their who would ask the person who pays? The debt pays for food and keeps leaving the lights on to give up there is room. But this isn't what things that happened over the next few days. I began to pay attention to these little things. For starts, Eric and Lucy were right away very comfortable, almost too comfortable. They had thrown their things around. They took off their shoes in the living room. Lucy was already there, close to the couch. Talk about where she was going to put all the baby stuff, as if the house were, I didn't say it was theirs or something. I hadn't heard anything yet, but I had a feeling that something was going to happen, so one day I had to go to for a few hours. Place of work, I usually work from home, but there are times when I have to attend meeting or not. I get home around time for lunch, so get something to eat and I see something as soon as I walk in. Strange, my stuff. My personal things are in the hall. My clothes are stacked on top. The ground. My computer screen is just sitting there with no plug-in, as if someone was moving it. My heart is beating fast because I understand what this means, but had to see it for myself. I went into Lucy is standing in the middle of the room. It was time to pack up the last of my things. She doesn't even look at. She looks shocked when I walk in. At me and said, "Hey, I was just getting ready." I couldn't believe it. "What the hell are you doing?" I scream, quite a bit louder than I meant to. She had the nerve to act calm and acted like this wasn't a big deal. "Your mom told us we could start moving our things in this. The baby is coming soon, and we need the room," she said, as if it were true. Things that made sense in the world. There was heat in my blood. My mother, "What?" asked my mother. Who doesn't? Putting anything towards the mortgage, they thought it was okay to just hand giving Eric and Lucy my room without first telling me. I wasn't going to let this slip, I said. Getting into the room, "You're not moving. I already told you guys to come into my room. Please, use the guest room." Lucy did not like that she put her hands together and gave me this look, like I'm the one acting silly. "The extra room is too little for the baby and there's no closet." I didn't want it. I needed more room. I don't care if you take my room. I am the one who pays the bill, who has paid for everything in this house, and Eric and you aren't even together. Anything you can give if you need more. You are free to find your own place. I was very angry at this point, and I could tell Lucy was upset too, but I didn't care. She didn't give up. She said, "Your mom said it was fine, though." This was said as if it were the last word. That's where I lost it. I marched back outside. I got my phone and called from across the room. My mom, who wasn't even at home I didn't even wait for her to say anything. "Hello," after she said, "Mom, did you? Let Eric and Lucy move in. Where is my room?" There was a long wait on the other end, as if she didn't know what to do. Finally told him, "Well, I thought it would be the best thing to do. They need that there is room, and you already have an office. The room isn't being used for anything important. I heard something I couldn't believe." "Are you serious right now?" I asked. "Pay the house payment. I make all of I pay the bills and buy food for you. The two of them can just take my mum. Tried to calm me down in my room. Down and said it wasn't a big deal. That we were all related, but I'm done listening, and I'm not giving them my room, and if they don't move, they are going to have to find stuff." Lucy must have found another place to stay. Heard me since she stormed out of the room angry. "You're really going to? We have a baby on the way, so please kick us out." That's when Eric walked in. He must have. Since hearing the noise from outside, he walked in angry and asked, What's going on?" he asked. So I set it up. "What's going on is your wife," she asked. "She thinks she can just take my room. Didn't even ask, and I'm telling you both. Right now, it's not going to happen. You can either stay in the spare room or you can leave." Eric wasn't happy about. He became defensive and said I would be willing to if they were family. Give up things for them. But at this time, I couldn't think straight. I've already made sacrifices to pay for this. Whole house. What are you guys up to? Giving what? Nothing. And now you think you can just take over? The yelling got pretty loud after that. Point. And I thought it was clear that there was no giving in. My mother. She tried to call me back, but I didn't answer. I was mad at her and couldn't deal with her. Reasons why Eric kept talking about how I wasn't being fair and how they had a due soon and how families should act, stay together when things get tough, but enough was enough for me. I turned to both of, "You have. Until the end of today is the day to move your stuff out of. I'll clean your room if you don't." Lucy slammed the door behind her as she left. She and Eric just stood there and looked at me. I didn't care if I was the bad guy. I wasn't going to let them get away with it. Me in my own house. Especially when who paid for everything I bought, spent the rest of the day in my office trying to relax. I didn't want to deal with either of them. And I knew going back out there would only cause another fight. But I knew it in my heart was just the beginning. It wasn't I'm going to take this lying down, and I thought my mom would get involved. I wasn't going to give up, though. Either not this time. After Eric and I thought that Lucy's fight would finally end. Back down means I cleaned up my room. Wasn't open, and you can either stay in the spare room or find another one. A place to live. It looked pretty easy, but not everything went as I planned to stay the next day. Mostly to myself. I wasn't looking for. I was still fuming after more drama. I spent some time thinking about how things had turned out. I spend most of my time at work, acting like everything was fine. But by the time dinner came around, I could feel the tense feeling in the air to be tiptoeing around each other. I did talk about the big problem in the room. Don't worry about the quiet. If Eric and Lucy finally get to stay in the guest room. I can't make any more problems, so I thought I could handle it. But then, something took place that sent me over the brink. I went into the kitchen that night. To get food for dinner, I bought all the goods like I always do. But when I opened the fridge was almost empty. I'm talking about the food I bought just. It was gone 2 days ago. I checked the fridge. The same thing happened to my parents. Didn't eat that way, and it wasn't me without a doubt, so who else could it be, Eric and Lucy? They most likely took everything without being asked. I was all ready. I was upset. But I tried to gloss it over. Whatever, I'll just pick up, I thought. But it wasn't just the food. When I went to sit down at the table to eat, my mom walked in. Kitchen without giving me a look. She quietly set the table for herself. My dad, Eric, and Lucy, and then she did don't make one for me. At first, I thought she had forgotten, so I did nothing but wait. After taking care of everyone, she sat down. Was just left standing there like a fool as I watched everyone start to eat. I'm not going to lie, I could feel my anger growing. Once more, it seemed like they were all I got in trouble for standing up for myself. I looked at my mom as she tried to, keeping my cool. You didn't give me a plate. She barely looked up. You don't want to help the family and you don't, eat with your family, she said, added in a way that made it seem like she was talking the air. I was shocked, I'm sorry, but I pay for everything, the food, the house payment, and now I'm getting iced out. She didn't even answer. My dad just sighed and went on. As if nothing had happened, they ate. Eric and Lucy sitting there made me even more angry. There, with a smug look on their faces like they had won something. Lucy was brave enough to play power games. I could not get you to smile at me as I walked by. I could no longer take it, and I wasn't going to be. I felt like a stranger in the house. I slammed the fridge door, shut, and ran out of the kitchen. My mind was racing, but I knew what I had to do. Do next? I ran to my room right away and my laptop and started looking for eviction notices. I thought that if they didn't believe in me, you should find a new place to live. Okay? I'm not a free hotel. Service. I had it in an hour. Getting the paperwork ready, I printed out 2 sets, one for Eric and Lucy and one for my parents. It was weird to kick them out my own family, but they had gone across the limit. They were being rude to me for. And now it's time to move. But I don't want to push. I kept trying to look like you were out. As calm as I am, but things I can't keep living this way. I feel like I don't matter in my own home. Either things change or you need to go somewhere else. Live. She did not argue. She just nodded. In silence, she said, okay, we'll figure it out. Something out. And then she left the kitchen and left me to my own devices. I wasn't sure if anything would happen. Change. But it looked like Eric is finally paying attention to me, and Lucy still hadn't shown their faces, and I didn't know if that was good or bad. In any case, they were borrowing time. Eric showed up late that afternoon. Of course, it looked like he was mulling over what had happened the night before. When he walked he didn't even say hello in the living room. Instead, he sat down next to me, and he always had the same angry scowl when he didn't get what he wanted. So this is what's going to happen, he asked, regarding his harsh. You're going to really kick? Let's go? I gave you 24 hours, I said without looking up from if you're still here tomorrow, He laughed and said, call the police. Shook his head like I was the bad guy. We're family. Yeah, but family do not help each other, I answered. You've had weeks to understand this. I'm not your backup plan. He didn't have anything to say afterward. They just sat there. It was there for a while before getting up and storming off again, like Eric always does. He was the type to run away when, this time, things didn't go his way. Was no different. The rest of the day passed too quietly, if I'm being honest. I really didn't know what Eric and Lucy were going to do, and I wasn't going to. I changed my mind. I made it clear to them. Date, and they knew I wasn't telling the truth. The next 24 hours were going to find out everything. Update 2. The next. After all the chaos, I woke up in the morning and laid there and looked at for a while. The sky. I knew today was the day Eric Lucy had only 24 hours, and that was running out. It was strange. Though I wasn't mad anymore. I had already agreed. What had to happen for everything that stayed was up to me to do when I got up and went into the kitchen. I saw that the house didn't feel the same but quiet, as if a huge thing was there, something was going to happen. There was no one in the kitchen, so I chose to get ready. Some food that Eric and Lucy's, the raid on the food, had left. The fridge was mostly empty, but I made do with what I had. As I ate, I had to think about how quickly the problem had been getting out of hand. I mean that things weren't my mom and I were always getting. I worked while paying the bills, and getting food, and life was good. Like always, when Eric and Lucy got there, it's crazy how everything fell apart. How fast things can shift when people start to feel like they are entitled to things they didn't work for a few hours. It was later that I heard someone walk down the hall. It was my dad. He walked in, sat down, took a sip of coffee, and the table next to me. He didn't say anything at first. I just sipped and looked out the window. He finally said, "Eric and Lucy are leaving today." I didn't answer right away because I wasn't sure if he meant to say that they had chose to leave on their own or that he was just telling me of the due date. "Regardless," I said with a nod, and I went on. "Snacking, they don't have anywhere to go," in a low voice. "They're going to stay at a hotel for a while until they figure it out." I stopped in the middle of my bite and stared. At him, I felt bad in some ways, but the bigger part of me knew it had to. I had been too nice for too long. They would beat me if I didn't stand up now, keep using the chance I gave them. When I talked about my voice firm, I didn't. They left me, but I didn't want it to get this bad. He didn't fight or try to trip me with shame, which was strange. He merely nodded and kept drinking his coffee. I think he finally got it. I wasn't going to back down from this time. There was no way to go back to the old way. How things were before Eric and Lucy started getting their items, I stayed in my room for the most of it, didn't want to start another fight or listen to any more passive, rude comments. But after a while, Eric's voice was getting louder. I could tell it was from down the hall. It was only a matter of time before something happened. Eric knocked on the door not long after. When I opened my door, he was there, with the same angry look on his face when I gave him the notice to vacate. "Are you really going to let this happen? Take place?" he asked in a stern voice. "You're just going to leave us like this?" I put my back against the doorframe. I crossed my arms and said, "I gave you 24 hours. I told you what had to happen." He shook his head and said, "We're family. Man, don't do this to your family." Took a deep breath and tried to stay cool. "Families don't use each other. I'm not making you leave. You have been for no reason living here for free for weeks I'm not giving anything. I charged for everything, even the rent and food. Instead of being thankful, you tried to take my room and force me to leave I'm not going to let that happen in my own house." Eric didn't say anything for a while. I could tell he was mad for a second, but he had nothing else to fight about. He didn't know I was right, but I did. "Want to say it, so that's it, right?" Said, "You're just kicking us out. Giving you the same choice I did. I told you yesterday that you could find a way to live somewhere else or stay in the spare room. And really esteem I need you to give me space, but if you can't, in that case, you're going," Eric said with a frown, looked at me, then turned around and left. It was silent, but I shut the door and deeply breathed out. It was tiring, but I understood what had to be done. By the middle of the afternoon, Eric and Lucy I didn't see them leave, and I really didn't want to. I wasn't having an sad goodbye or something like that. They got their things together, loaded, they put them in their car and drove off. The house didn't say anything to me. The way I felt changed after they left. Less tense. My parents didn't say much. I thought they were still there that day. Taking in what had happened, my mother looked upset, but she didn't say anything. About it. Maybe she finally got it and wasn't to blame for anything Lucy made me push too far. And this was the result. That night, my mom knocked on my door. She came in while sitting I stood on the edge of my bed and looked down at the floor. I could tell she was looking for a while. She looked for the right words to say, "They're gone," answered softly. I nodded without saying anything. "I had no idea it would get up until now," she said. "I didn't understand how much stress we were putting on you." I looked at her and felt a little less angry. "It's not that, but you need my help," I said. These guys didn't care about me. I felt like my room and needs weren't being met. She let out a breath and nodded. "You're right. We should have seen it sooner." We sat still for a while. For a while, I could tell she was upset, but she could start to tell where I was. "I don't want you and your dad to," I said in a low voice, "leave," being still. "But if things don't change, I can't go on like this," she said again and slowly stood up. "We'll figure it out." She said, "Things will be different." Promise I had a strange feeling when she left the room. Comfort and tiredness at the same time. What was going on with Eric and Lucy was dealt with, but there was still work to be done with my parents. I knew it wouldn't work out. It would be simple, but they were ready to do it. To hear. For the first time in weeks, I felt like they could breathe again. The house was calm, and the stress in the air had gone away. It wasn't a great answer, but I did get my room back at least. More importantly, I respect you.